Hi, everyone. I'm John Hendel, Deputy Director at YNRPR.
Hi, I'm Holly Hitchin. I'm Senior Vice President, YNRPR.
And thank you again for joining us for the new abnormal. This week, we're going to be talking about medical meetings. We're fresh off some very exciting ones, and we've actually changed the format a little bit for this year, going to virtual. Holly's great. Holly's sort of our resident Cal Ripken of medical meetings. She really hasn't missed one in years, and fortunately, you didn't miss one again this year.
Yeah.
I know, Holly, you're also coming fresh off a great article from Pharma Exec where you talked about some of the ways that we needed to adjust this year, and would really love to talk about and hear about how those actually were able to come to life at the recent medical meetings that you attended.
Yeah, definitely. So when we were preparing for medical meetings this year, there were really three things that stood out to me. The first, and I think most important, is to be flexible.
Mm.
I was really excited this year. We locked down our ASCO plan in February, which is not something we ever do. We're usually more in the March, April timeframe. And I was super jazzed. I was like, this is it. This is the year. We've got this great timeline. And of course, a couple weeks later, that all got completely thrown out the window.
Yeah, we were saying it should have been a warning signal right there that we were
Yes,
we were ready to go.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, I think that when we finally picked things up, what we realized was that we're not going to be able to do things the way we normally do. Our very beautiful, built out timelines and roadmaps were really just more of a guide this year than anything else. And, I really just kept instilling to my clients and my teams that flexible is the word of this year. And, things were changing all the way up until the last couple weeks. And, it's really uncomfortable, but everybody just had to band together, accept that it is what it is, and really find a way to move forward.
And I'd have to imagine, Holly, it's also a good way to challenge yourself and remain relevant and not be sort of trapped into, okay, we have to do it this way. We're able to jump on maybe a little bit of the news of the day, but also like what's happening culturally so that we're able to remain relevant.
Yeah, and it's actually perfect lead into my next 2 points, which is to be bold and be sensitive.
Sure.
So to be bold, in an industry like pharma, it's so highly regulated and we are very comfortable with a certain way of doing things. There's a certain tone, a certain style we take. And this is a year to say, well, if I was Pepsi prepping for the Super Bowl and not a pharma company prepping for ASCO or a meeting, what would I do? How can I do things a little differently but still get my message across?
And
And
do you think, Holly, that given the fact that this happened this year, that's something that the boldness will be something that's maintained moving forward into other meetings? Or do you
I
think,
really hope so.
yeah, I do too.
I think that that's one of the things I would love to see the industry retain going forward, even if we switch back to the normal format of on-site,
Mhm.
is how do we continue to push the envelope and make ourselves a little uncomfortable in order to get the best result and break through that sea of sameness.
Sure. I love it. I love it. And then you said it's a sensitivity side too. I mean, obviously it is always a high stress time and we try to be sensitive this year, clearly a little bit different. Um, I'd love for you to talk a little about what your definition of sensitivity was for this conference specifically, and then how can we apply that moving forward, thinking of even things as simple as travel for people that fly halfway across the world for a 5-day meeting. Can we be more sensitive to their needs and really hear what they have to say? And is there a greater inclusivity that can happen moving forward?
Yeah, definitely. So I think, when we looked at the be sensitive point, for us, it was really about dialing back, taking a step back and remembering what the ultimate goal of a medical meeting is. And that is to share data and information. So when we were crafting, particularly our social strategy, that's where we started. And if we didn't feel like what we were doing was furthering the information that was out there in some way, or positively contributing to the conversation around, oncology, for example, then maybe that boldness didn't feel right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very fine line. You want to be relevant in the conversation. You want people to feel like you're hearing them, but you don't want to push over the line. And I think even it was interesting this weekend at ASCO when the Black Lives Matter protests started, breaking out, there was a lot of online conversation, even within the hashtag ASCO20,
Sure.
with people commenting on that and saying this is, one way that we can help is by, increasing diversity in clinical trials. And, is there more that we can be doing as an organization and as healthcare professionals? So there's definitely that cultural relevancy piece that's so important to be listening to and paying attention to.
No, it's so true that the medical meeting shouldn't just be a stop time and we're all sort of gathered here and we're closing off walls. It should really be an opportunity to broaden conversation. And it seems like this year, virtually, that's allowed us to start down that path. And hopefully that's something we can continue moving to the forward. I mean, just last thing, when you're thinking about what should we do next year, what should it look like? I mean, do you have like a quick one or two tips of how we need to evolve medical meetings to make sure that they're as productive as they were from a virtual standpoint this year?
So first, I would really encourage meeting organizers to retain some aspect of a virtual format. There were obviously the people who said, oh, I don't really like this. I miss the interaction and seeing
Sure.
colleagues and the networking. But there were a lot of people who acknowledged how great it was that they were able to watch presentations from the comfort of their own home. They were really able to think about it and distill it because they weren't running to the next
Sure,
meeting,
sure.
not even the next presentation, but just like whatever their next meeting was on their calendar. And there was a lot of really engaging social conversation with people talking about how results would impact their process. So that's the first, is that they should definitely try to retain and prioritize some aspect of the virtual format. And I think the second tip going forward for PR agencies or communicators is to remember to simplify.
Yeah.
If you've got this plan that is getting added on and added on and added on, feel free to take a step back and say, okay, what is our goal? What are the 2 or 3 or 4 things that are really going to help us meet that goal? And then for everything else, how important is that? And if the answer is not that important, then I'd encourage people to scale back a little.
Yeah, I think that's real sound advice, not only for medical meetings, but really for everything that we're
For
doing.
everything we do.
Keep it as simple as possible.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. But thanks again, Holly, for joining this week. I would encourage everybody to please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can see great interviews like the one with Holly and other people as we move forward. Thanks,
Great.
Holly.
Thanks, John.